Captain Daniel Reeves noticed was the photograph. It was lying face down on a stainless steel table inside the emergency treatment room at Falcon Ridge Air Base, surrounded by gauze, empty syringes, and a pool of rainwater dripping from someone's uniform. Daniel had just finished inspecting the evacuation team when he saw a young airman reach for the photograph. He froze. "Where did you get that?" The airman, Private Owen Carter, looked confused. "Found it in the supply crate, sir." Daniel snatched it from his hand and turned it over. A man in a colonel's uniform stared back from the faded picture. He was older, scarred above one eyebrow, and standing beside a rescue helicopter. Daniel's voice dropped. "Why do you have a picture of the colonel?" Across the room, conversation stopped. 3 medics looked toward the photograph. Then everyone went pale. Carter swallowed. "Sir, I don't know who he is." Daniel did. Colonel Elias Ward had been the most respected combat rescue commander in the Air Force, a legend whose name was spoken carefully. 6 years earlier, Ward had disappeared during a classified mountain rescue mission. Officially, he was presumed dead. Daniel stared at the picture. Then he looked at the woman sitting quietly in the corner. Mara Vale. She was 24, a civilian medical technician hired 2 weeks earlier. Most of the base thought she was harmless. Some thought she was slow. She barely spoke during briefings, avoided eye contact, and had already been mocked by senior medics for confusing 2 medication trays. Daniel had dismissed her too. Now Mara was staring at the photograph as if it had opened a door to a grave. "Where did you get it?" Daniel asked her. Mara stood. "I didn't." "Then why are you looking at it like that?" Her lips trembled. "Because that's my father." The room went silent. Someone dropped a metal instrument. Daniel stepped closer. "Your father is Colonel Ward." Mara nodded. "That's impossible." "Colonel Ward had no surviving family?" "He did," she whispered. "He just made sure nobody knew." Before Daniel could ask another question, the base alarm screamed. A rescue helicopter had crashed on the eastern ridge. 4 crew members were trapped. 1 was critically injured. Daniel immediately grabbed his helmet. "Carter, with me?" Mara stepped forward. "Captain, I can help." Daniel shook his head. "You stay here. I know mountain trauma. You've been here 2 weeks. And you have 3 minutes before the helicopter burns." Daniel stopped. Mara pointed toward the window. A column of black smoke was rising beyond the runway. "That aircraft carries aviation fuel," she said. "If the tank's ruptured, you don't have 3 minutes. You have 90 seconds. Daniel stared at her. "How do you know?" "I can smell it." Then the lights flickered. The emergency generator failed. Darkness swallowed the room. Mara moved instantly. "Give me the red medical bag." A medic laughed nervously. "You're kidding." "No. Now." Something in her voice changed the room. The timid technician disappeared. A calm professional stood in her place. Daniel handed her the bag. They reached the crash site through driving rain. The helicopter had slammed into the hillside, its tail twisted around a tree. 1 crewman was unconscious beneath the wreckage. Another was screaming, his leg trapped under a steel beam. Daniel crawled inside. "Mara, I need pressure here." She was already there. "His pelvis is unstable." "How can you tell?" "His pulse is disappearing." She cut through the uniform, found the bleeding source, and packed the wound. Daniel stared. Her hands were precise. "Not trained. Experience." "Who taught you this?" "My father." A sudden explosion shook the hillside. Fuel ignited beneath the aircraft. Daniel shouted, "Everyone out." But the trapped crewman screamed, "I can't leave him." Mara looked at the burning wreckage. Then she saw something, a small red indicator blinking beneath the pilot's seat. "Captain, that's not fuel." "What?" "Emergency oxygen." Her face changed. "If that cylinder ruptures, the whole cabin becomes a bomb." Daniel understood. "Can you remove it?" "I can." "No." She looked at him. "Captain, if you stay, you're going to die. So are you." Mara smiled sadly. "Then I guess I'm finally doing what my father taught me." She crawled into the wreckage. Daniel followed. Heat rolled across the cabin. Sparks fell like fireflies. Mara reached the cylinder, but her fingers stopped. A serial number was stamped into the metal. She whispered, "This isn't ours." Daniel looked closer. The cylinder belonged to a classified rescue aircraft retired 6 years earlier, Colonel Ward's aircraft. "How is that possible?" Mara's eyes filled with tears. "Because this crash wasn't an accident." Before Daniel could respond, the trapped crewman grabbed Mara's sleeve. "Colonel Ward told me you'd come." She froze. "What did you say?" The crewman coughed blood. "He said his daughter would recognize the signal." Daniel looked at Mara. "What signal?" The crewman pointed toward the mountains. 3 lights blinked in sequence. Mara began crying. "He's alive." The radio crackled. A distorted voice came through. "Blackbird to Falcon Ridge. Do not trust command." Daniel reached for the radio. "Identify yourself." Static, then the voice returned. "Daniel Reeves." Daniel went rigid. Only one person knew his name from a classified mission 5 years earlier. Colonel Elias Ward. "Sir," Daniel whispered. "Where are you?" The answer came quietly. "Where I have always been." The transmission died. Daniel turned to Mara. She was staring at the photograph. On its back, handwritten in faded ink, were 4 words. "Trust the girl, not the uniform." Daniel suddenly understood. The photograph had not been lost. It had been planted. Someone wanted Mara found. Back at the base, Daniel confronted General Harlan, the commander of Falcon Ridge. Who knew Ward had a daughter? Harlan's expression hardened. Nobody. Then why did someone put his photograph in our supply crate? Harlan looked at Mara. For one terrifying second, Mara saw recognition in his eyes, then he raised his pistol. Daniel stepped between them. General, lower it. Harlan fired. The bullet struck Daniel's vest and threw him backward. Mara caught him. Harlan ran. She dropped beside Daniel and immediately opened his vest. You're breathing. Daniel winced. That's your diagnosis. You're fine. No, you're not. She pressed a dressing against his ribs. Then she looked toward the door. We have 6 minutes. For what? The second part of my father's plan. Mara pulled the photograph from her pocket. She folded it along a hidden crease. Inside was a tiny memory card. Daniel stared. Your father planned all this? No, Mara said. He planned for the possibility that someone would kill him. They inserted the card into a secure terminal. A video appeared. Colonel Ward filled the screen. If you're watching this, I'm probably dead, he said. Mara covered her mouth. Ward continued. 6 years ago, I discovered that someone inside our command was selling rescue coordinates. I refused to stay silent. The people involved staged my death. Daniel's face tightened. Ward named 3 officers. General Harlan was one of them. Mara began sobbing. Ward looked directly into the camera. Forgive me for leaving you. I believed distance would keep you alive. The video ended. Sirens erupted outside. Harlan's men were coming. Daniel struggled to stand. Mara stopped him. You can't fight. I can walk. That's not the same thing. He smiled. Your father would have liked you. She shook her head. He would have wanted me to be brave. Daniel looked at the photograph. No, he would have wanted you to survive. Together they escaped through an underground maintenance tunnel while the base descended into chaos. At the tunnel's end, a helicopter waited in the rain. The pilot removed his helmet. Colonel Elias Ward stepped out. Mara stopped breathing. For 6 years she had imagined his funeral without a body. Now he stood 10 feet away, older, thinner, alive. She ran. Ward caught her in his arms. I'm sorry, he whispered. Mara struck his chest. You let me believe you were dead. I know. She hit him again. I hated you. I know. Then she collapsed against him. I missed you. Ward closed his eyes. I missed you every day. Daniel watched silently. Ward looked at him. Captain Reeves, you protected my daughter. Daniel shook his head. She saved my life. Ward smiled. Then she's ready. Ready for what? Ward looked toward the burning base. To finish what I started. Months later, the corruption scandal made national headlines. General Harlan and the others were arrested. The rescue crew survived. Daniel recovered completely. And Mara, she became the youngest combat medical specialist in her unit. But she kept one thing from that night. The photograph. Years later, when a frightened new medic asked why she carried a picture of Colonel Ward, Mara smiled. Because sometimes the person everyone underestimates is the one carrying the truth. And somewhere beyond the mountains, an old rescue helicopter disappeared into the sunrise. Some heroes return wearing medals, others return carrying scars. And sometimes, the greatest legacy a father can leave his daughter isn't a name, a rank, or a photograph. It's the courage to stand when everyone else is afraid to look. The next morning, Daniel found Mara beside the helipad. She held the photograph, watching sunlight spread across concrete. Do you regret finding me? She asked. Daniel shook his head. No, I regret it took us to see you. Mara smiled through tears. Then promise me something. What? When the person walks into this base, don't decide who they are before they speak. Daniel nodded. Promise. Behind them, the mountains glowed, and Mara looked less like a daughter searching for her father and more like a hero becoming herself. If this story moved you, remember that courage doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it shakes. Sometimes it walks into the room wearing the uniform nobody respects. But when the moment comes, courage reveals exactly who was strong all along. If you want more cinematic stories of hidden heroes, impossible rescues, and second chances, subscribe and stay with us. Because the next story might remind you that the person everyone ignores could be the one who saves everyone.